The Lincoln Elementary PTA meeting was scheduled to start in 5 minutes when Emma walked through the gymnasium doors, clutching her son's progress report and mentally preparing for another awkward encounter with her ex-husband. She spotted Marcus near the back, same spot they'd sat together for 3 years before the divorce. But as she approached, her steps faltered. Someone was already there. A woman with cascading blonde hair, wearing a tight red dress completely inappropriate for a school function, sat in what had been Emma's seat for the past 6 months. She looked up as Emma approached, her glossy lips curving into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You must be the ex-wife," the woman said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I'm Brittany. I've heard so much about you." Emma's mouth went dry. Her son's father had brought his girlfriend to their child's school meeting. No warning. No discussion. No respect for the boundaries they'd established in their parenting plan. Marcus looked up from his phone, his expression sheepish but defiant. "Emma, this is Brittany. I thought it was time you two met." "At our son's PTA meeting?" Emma's voice came out higher than intended. Around them, other parents were beginning to notice the tension. "Brittany's going to be a big part of Tyler's life," Marcus said, reaching for his girlfriend's hand. "She needs to understand his school environment." Emma stood there for a moment, processing the audacity. Then she forced a smile and took a seat 3 rows ahead, her cheeks burning with humiliation and rage. Behind her, she could hear Brittany's stage whisper, "This is going to be interesting." Throughout the 30-minute meeting about upcoming fundraisers and parent-teacher conference schedules, Emma tried to focus on the principal's presentation while her ex-husband and his girlfriend put on a show behind her. They whispered constantly, Brittany's laugh ringing out at inappropriate moments. When Mrs. Patterson, Tyler's teacher, discussed classroom behavior expectations, Brittany made audible comments about certain parents not setting proper boundaries at home. Emma's face burned as she felt the stares of other parents. Jennifer Williams, whose daughter was in Tyler's class, shot her sympathetic glances. The Hendersons, who'd always been friendly, suddenly seemed very interested in their phones. During the Q&A session, when Emma stood to ask about the reading support program Tyler had been recommended for, Brittany loudly whispered, "Maybe if some parents spent less time working and more time with their kids." The gymnasium fell silent. Mrs. Patterson cleared her throat awkwardly. Emma's hands trembled as she sat back down, her question forgotten. Marcus didn't correct his girlfriend. He didn't defend Emma. He just sat there, letting this woman humiliate the mother of his child in front of their entire school community. Emma made it through the remaining 15 minutes by sheer willpower, her jaw clenched so tight it ached. When the meeting finally ended, she grabbed her purse and headed for the door without looking back. She made it to her car before the tears started. At 9:47 p.m., Emma's phone buzzed as she sat in her kitchen, still wearing the clothes from the disastrous PTA meeting. The text was from Marcus. "You need to get used to Brittany. She'll be part of Tyler's life soon. Maybe you should try being more mature about this." Emma stared at the screen, her hands shaking with rage. More mature? She'd sat through 30 minutes of public humiliation without saying a word while his girlfriend made snide comments about her parenting. A second text arrived, "Tyler loves her already. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." That was the breaking point. Tyler was 6 years old. He'd been through enough upheaval with the divorce 8 months ago. And now Marcus was introducing new people into his life without any discussion, any preparation, any consideration for their son's emotional well-being. Emma screenshot both messages and scrolled through her contacts until she found the number she'd hoped never to need again. Catherine Morrison Law Office, this is Kate. "Kate, it's Emma Rodriguez. I need to schedule an emergency consultation." "Emma? What's wrong?" "My ex-husband just violated our parenting agreement. In public. With witnesses." There was a pause. "I'll see you first thing tomorrow morning." "And Emma?" "Start documenting everything." Emma hung up and opened a new note on her phone, titling it Marcus Violations. She began typing, her fingers flying across the screen as months of suppressed anger finally found an outlet. Catherine Morrison's law office smelled like leather and determination. Emma sat across from her divorce attorney, sliding a folder of printed text messages and photos across the mahogany desk. "Page 7 of your parenting plan," Kate said, flipping through Emma's copy of their custody agreement. Section 4.3, neither parent shall introduce the minor child to romantic partners without prior written discussion and mutual agreement regarding the appropriateness and timing of such introduction. Emma leaned forward. "He didn't just introduce Tyler to her. He brought her to a school function and let her make disparaging comments about me in front of other parents and teachers." Kate studied the screenshots of Marcus's texts. These messages show clear intent to establish this woman as a parental figure without following the agreed-upon protocol. She looked up. "Emma, this isn't just a violation of your parenting plan. It's contempt of court." "What does that mean?" "It means we can file for an emergency modification of custody arrangements. The family court takes these violations seriously, especially when they impact the child's school environment and emotional stability." Emma felt something shift in her chest, not quite hope, but the beginning of empowerment. "What do you need from me?" "Everything. Text messages, photos, witness statements from other parents at the meeting. If Brittany has any social media presence, we need screenshots." "And Emma." Kate's expression grew serious. "I need you to start keeping detailed records of every interaction involving Tyler and this woman. Times, dates, what was said, who was present." "I can do that." "Good. Because if Marcus wants to play games with your son's well-being, we're going to make sure he understands the rules." Dorothy Rodriguez had always favored her son. Even during the ugliest parts of Emma and Marcus's marriage, even when Marcus had been caught cheating, even through the messy divorce proceedings, Dorothy had found ways to make everything Emma's fault. Standing on the familiar front porch of her former mother-in-law's house, Emma felt the old anxiety creep up her spine. She was here to pick up Tyler from his weekend with Marcus, same routine they'd followed for 8 months. Dorothy opened the door with a smile that looked more like a grimace. "Emma, dear. Come in, Tyler's just finishing his lunch." The house smelled the same, vanilla candles and disappointment. Emma followed Dorothy into the living room, where she noticed new throw pillows on the couch and a woman's jacket draped over the back of Marcus's old chair. "I see you've met Brittany," Dorothy said, her tone artificially bright. "She's wonderful, isn't she? So good with Tyler." Emma's jaw tightened. She shouldn't have been at Tyler's school meeting. "Oh, Emma." Dorothy's voice took on that familiar condescending tone. "You really need to move on. Brittany makes Marcus happy, and Tyler adores her. You should be more open-minded." "I'm concerned about following our custody agreement." "You're concerned about control," Dorothy snapped. "You've always been jealous when Marcus is happy." Emma heard Tyler's voice from the kitchen, talking animatedly to someone. A woman's voice responded. Brittany was here, in Dorothy's house, playing family with Emma's son. "Tyler, sweetheart, Mommy's here." Emma called out, forcing cheerfulness into her voice. Her 6-year-old came running, launching himself into her arms. "Mom. Guess what? Brittany taught me to make pancakes that look like Mickey Mouse." Emma's heart clenched as she hugged her son. Behind him, Brittany appeared in the doorway, wearing one of Marcus's old college sweatshirts like she belonged here. "Hi again," Brittany said with that same false smile from the PTA meeting. "Tyler and I had such a fun morning." Emma stood up, Tyler's hand firmly in hers. "Say goodbye, sweetheart. We need to get home." As they walked to the car, Tyler chattered about his weekend. "Brittany said she might move in with Daddy soon. She says I could have 2 mommies." Emma's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles went white. But she kept her voice steady. "What did Daddy say about that?" "He said it would be awesome. Like having a bigger family." Emma pulled into her driveway and sat in the car for a moment after Tyler ran inside, her heart breaking at her son's innocent excitement about a situation that violated everything they'd agreed to put in place to protect him. She pulled out her phone and added another entry to her growing documentation file. "You need to see this," Jessica said, sliding her phone across the coffee shop table to Emma. "I found Brittany's Instagram. Her privacy settings are a joke." Emma stared at the screen, her stomach dropping with each photo she scrolled through. Brittany in Emma's old kitchen, wearing what looked suspiciously like the robe Emma had left behind after the divorce. Brittany in the master bedroom Emma had once shared with Marcus, posing in front of the mirror Emma had picked out. The captions made it worse. "Starting our new family. #blessed #stepmom life #new family. Home sweet home with my boys. #love my life #family #happy ending. When God closes one door, he opens a window. #karma #upgrade #living my best life." Emma screenshot each post, her hands shaking with rage. "She's been posting about Tyler? Look at this one from last weekend." The photo showed Tyler at what looked like a restaurant, Brittany's arm around him. The caption read, "Finally someone who appreciates good parenting. #stepmom #blessed real mom." She called herself his real mom, Emma whispered. "There's more." Jessica scrolled to an older post. "This one's from 3 weeks ago." It was a photo of Brittany and Marcus in bed, clearly taken in the early morning. Brittany was wearing what was definitely Emma's old Northwestern University t-shirt. The caption, "When you upgrade in every possible way. #glow up #winning #karma." Emma felt nauseous. Not just because of the photos, but because Tyler had been exposed to this woman's social media performance of their private life. "Jess, can you help me screenshot all of these?" "Already on it." Jessica's fingers moved across her phone screen. "I'm sending them all to your cloud storage." "Emma, this woman is unhinged. She's also documenting her violations of our custody agreement in real time." Emma managed a grim smile. "Catherine is going to love this." Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Tyler had a great weekend. Brittany made his favorite dinner. You should thank her." Emma looked at the Instagram photos still open on Jessica's phone, then typed back, "I'll be sure to mention that to my attorney." Chapter 7, The Sleepover That Wasn't Authorized. The call came from Tyler himself, using Marcus's phone on Sunday evening. "Mommy, I'm having a sleepover." Emma frowned. Tyler was supposed to come home Sunday nights. It was clearly stated in their custody arrangement. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "Brittany said I could stay another night. We're going to make pancakes again tomorrow morning, and she's going to drive me to school." Emma's blood ran cold. "Can I talk to Daddy, please?" There was a pause, some muffled conversation, and then Marcus's voice. "Emma?" "Yeah, Tyler's staying another night. Brittany wanted to help with his school project." "Marcus, that's not our agreement. Sunday nights he comes home with me." "It's one night, Emma. Stop being so rigid." "It's not about being rigid. It's about following the custody schedule we both agreed to. And Brittany has no authority to make decisions about where Tyler sleeps. She's going to be his stepmom soon. She needs to be involved in his routine." Emma nearly dropped the phone. "His what?" "Marcus, we've talked about this. You can't just decide. I'll drop him off at school tomorrow morning." "It's fine." The line went dead. Emma stared at her phone, then immediately called Catherine. "He's in violation again," Emma said when her lawyer picked up. "And this time he's involving Tyler's school schedule." "Document everything," Catherine said. "Time of call, what was said, who made the decision." "And Emma? Start thinking about whether you want to file for an emergency hearing. This is escalating." That night, Emma lay awake staring at the ceiling, her son's empty bedroom down the hall a constant reminder that Marcus was rewriting their custody agreement without her consent, using their 6-year-old son as a pawn in his new relationship. When Tyler came home from school the next day, He was full of stories about Brittany making his lunch and walking him to his classroom. "She told Mrs. Patterson she's my new mom," Tyler said innocently. Mrs. Patterson looked confused. Emma's heart broke a little more, even as her resolve hardened. The certified letter arrived at Marcus's apartment on Tuesday morning. Emma knew because he called her within an hour, his voice tight with anger. "A cease and desist? Really, Emma? You're bringing lawyers into this?" "You brought lawyers into this when you started violating our custody agreement," Emma replied, her voice steady. She was getting better at staying calm during these confrontations. "This is ridiculous. Brittany's going to be part of Tyler's life. You need to accept that. She can be part of Tyler's life after we follow the process we agreed to in mediation. Written discussion, gradual introduction, consideration of Tyler's emotional needs. You just can't stand that I'm happy." Emma took a deep breath. "Marcus, this isn't about your happiness. It's about Tyler's well-being and the legal agreement we both signed. My lawyer says your cease and desist is just posturing. Your lawyer should read Section 4.3 of our parenting plan more carefully." "And Marcus?" "The next violation gets filed with the court." She hung up before he could respond. An hour later, Catherine called. "How did he take it?" "About as well as expected. He called me bitter and accused me of not wanting him to be happy. Standard deflection technique. Emma, I need to warn you, this is probably going to get worse before it gets better. Men like Marcus don't like being told they can't do whatever they want." "I'm ready." "I hope so. Because we're about to find out just how far he's willing to go to avoid following rules he doesn't like." Catherine was right. That evening, Emma received a text from Dorothy, "You're destroying your son's happiness out of spite. Marcus deserves better than your bitterness." Emma screenshot the message and added it to her ever-growing file of documentation. The idea came to Emma while watching Tyler pack his Spider-Man backpack for another weekend with Marcus. Her son was excited, chattering about plans with Daddy and Brittany, completely unaware that his mother was fighting a legal battle over his emotional well-being. "Tyler, honey, remember what we talked about? If anyone says anything that makes you feel confused or sad about Mommy, you can tell me when you come home." "I know, Mom. But Brittany's really nice. She says she's going to teach me to ride her bike." Emma's heart clenched. She knelt down to Tyler's level. "Sweetheart, I want you to have fun. I just want you to remember that you only have one mommy, okay?" "I know," Tyler said, rolling his eyes with 6-year-old exasperation. After Tyler left with Marcus, Emma made a decision that would have horrified her old self but felt absolutely necessary to her new reality. She drove to the electronics store and purchased a small digital recording device, barely bigger than a pen, that could record up to 8 hours of audio. The next Friday, she carefully tucked it into the side pocket of Tyler's backpack. "This is Mommy's special pen," she told Tyler. "It's just in case you need to write something down, but don't take it out unless it's important, okay?" When Tyler came home Sunday evening, Emma retrieved the device with trembling hands. Most of the recording was typical weekend sounds, cartoons, playing, normal conversation. But at the 3-hour mark, she heard Brittany's voice clearly. "Tyler, baby, you need to understand something. Your mommy doesn't want Daddy to be happy. That's why she's being mean about me being here." "But Mommy's not mean," Tyler's small voice protested. "She's trying to keep us apart because she's jealous. But don't worry, I'm going to take better care of you and Daddy than she ever did. I'm the boss here now, and I'm going to make sure we're all happy." Emma's hand shook as she made copies of the audio file. Tyler's innocent voice asking, "Are you going to be my new mommy?" followed by Brittany's confident, "I already am, sweetheart," made Emma's vision blur with rage and heartbreak. She sent the files to Catherine immediately, along with a timestamped summary of the conversation. Catherine's response was swift, "This is parental alienation. We're filing for emergency modification first thing Monday morning." Dorothy's 70th birthday brunch was supposed to be a neutral family gathering. When she'd invited Emma 2 weeks earlier, it had been framed as keeping peace for Tyler's sake and putting family first. Emma had agreed, wanting Tyler to maintain relationships with his extended family despite the ongoing custody issues. What she hadn't expected was to walk into Dorothy's dining room and find it decorated like a celebration of Marcus and Brittany's relationship. Photos of the couple were prominently displayed. Brittany sat at Dorothy's right hand, wearing a dress that probably cost more than Emma's monthly grocery budget. And when Dorothy introduced Emma to the assembled relatives, she did it with barely concealed disdain. "Everyone, you remember Emma, Tyler's mother. Not Marcus's ex-wife. Not Dorothy's former daughter-in-law. Just Tyler's mother," as if Emma's only relationship to this family was biological. But Emma had come prepared. "Dorothy, thank you so much for including me. I brought someone I'd like you to meet, my attorney, Catherine Morrison." The room went silent. Catherine, dressed in her sharpest business suit and carrying her briefcase, stepped forward with a professional smile. "Mrs. Rodriguez, what a lovely home. Thank you for having me." Dorothy's face went through several color changes. "Your attorney? This is a family birthday party. Catherine is helping me navigate some family legal matters," Emma said smoothly. "I thought it would be good for her to understand Tyler's extended family dynamics." Marcus, who had been talking to his uncle near the buffet, froze when he saw Catherine. Brittany's confident smile faltered. "Emma," Marcus approached slowly, "what's Catherine doing here?" "The same thing Brittany's doing here," Emma replied. "Supporting someone important to them at a family function." Catherine opened her briefcase and pulled out a legal pad. "I hope you don't mind if I take a few notes. I find family dynamics fascinating from a legal perspective." For the first time in months, Emma felt like she was in control of a situation involving Marcus. What followed was the most uncomfortable birthday brunch in Rodriguez family history. Dorothy and Brittany seemed determined to make Emma feel unwelcome, while Catherine observed everything with the sharp attention of a professional taking depositions. "Emma, dear," Dorothy said while serving cake, "you look tired. Are you sleeping enough? I know single motherhood can be so draining." "I sleep fine, thank you," Emma replied. "Though I have been staying up late documenting some concerning patterns in Tyler's behavior after his weekends here." Catherine made a note. Behavioral changes can be important indicators of environmental stressors. Brittany leaned forward, her voice honey-sweet but her eyes cold. "Maybe Tyler's just happier when he's in a stable, loving home with two parents." "That's interesting," Catherine said, not looking up from her notes. "Emma, didn't you mention that Tyler's therapist had some concerns about sudden changes in his living situation?" Marcus shot Emma a warning look. "Tyler doesn't need therapy. He's a happy kid." "Children often mask emotional distress," Catherine observed. "It's actually quite common in custody situations where parental alienation is occurring." "No one's alienating anyone," Brittany snapped. "We're trying to build a family, and Emma won't let go." Dorothy nodded vigorously. "Exactly. Some women just can't accept when their marriages fail. They hold on out of spite." Emma felt the familiar burn of humiliation, but Catherine's presence changed everything. Instead of shrinking, Emma straightened her shoulders. "Actually, our marriage failed when Marcus violated his vows. I'm simply trying to ensure our divorce decree and custody agreement are followed as written." "Which is Emma's legal right," Catherine added, still writing. "And Marcus's legal obligation." The room fell silent except for the scratch of Catherine's pen on paper. Tyler, who had been playing with his cousins in the next room, chose that moment to run in asking, "Mommy, why is everyone being quiet?" Emma scooped her son into her arms. "We're just having grown-up conversation, sweetheart. Are you ready to go home?" As they prepared to leave, Dorothy pulled Emma aside with a forced smile. "This was unnecessary, Emma. Bringing your lawyer to a family function." Emma looked back at Catherine, who was engaged in what appeared to be a very serious conversation with Marcus about court dates and compliance requirements. "You're right, Dorothy. but then again, so was bringing Brittany to Tyler's PTA meeting. The call came on Thursday morning while Emma was at work. Mrs. Patterson's voice was careful, professional, but concerned. "Emma, I wonder if you could come in for a conference about Tyler. We've noticed some changes in his behavior that we'd like to discuss." Emma's stomach dropped. "What kind of changes?" "He's been more withdrawn during group activities. Yesterday he asked me if he could have just one mom again because having two was confusing. I think it would be helpful if you could speak with our school counselor." Emma left work early and found herself sitting in a child-sized chair across from Mrs. Chen, Tyler's counselor, in a room decorated with positive affirmations and soft lighting designed to make children feel safe. "Tyler's a resilient child," Mrs. Chen began, "but he's processing some significant changes in his family structure. He's mentioned several times that he has two mommies now, which seems to be causing him some distress." "What kind of distress?" "He's asked repeatedly about why families need to change, whether you're still his real mom, and whether he's supposed to love Brittany the same way he loves you." Mrs. Chen consulted her notes. "Yesterday he said, Brittany told me she's better than my mommy, but I don't want a better mommy." Emma's heart shattered. "He said that?" Children Tyler's age need consistency and clear boundaries, especially during times of family transition. When adults introduce conflicting messages about family roles, it can create anxiety and behavioral regression. "What can I do?" "The most important thing is maintaining Tyler's sense of security with you as his primary attachment figure." "But Emma, I need to ask, has anyone been telling Tyler that family structures are changing without your input?" Emma thought about the recording she'd made, about Brittany's voice telling her son that she was the boss now and already his new mommy. "Yes," she said quietly. "And I'm working with my attorney to address it." Mrs. Chen nodded grimly. "Good. Because Tyler needs to know that the adults in his life are working together to protect his emotional well-being, not using him to navigate their own relationship conflicts." That evening, when Tyler asked Emma why he needed two mommies if other kids only had one, Emma held her son close and promised him that she would always be his only mommy, no matter what anyone else said. Jessica found the Reddit account at 11 p.m. on a Friday night while doing what she called necessary surveillance on Emma's behalf. The username was Blessed Stepmom 2023, and the posts were disturbing enough that Jessica called Emma immediately. "You need to see this. I think it's Brittany." Emma grabbed her laptop and opened the link Jessica sent. The Reddit account had been active for 3 weeks, posting in forums like Dealing with Toxic Exes and Stepmom Support. The most recent post made Emma's blood run cold. "My boyfriend's ex-wife is making our lives hell. She can't accept that he's moved on and found someone better. She works constantly and barely pays attention to their son, but now she's trying to use custody laws to control us. The kid loves me more than her anyway. Yesterday he said he wishes I was his real mom. But the ex is so bitter she'd rather destroy their son's happiness than let us be a family. Any advice for dealing with psycho exes who use kids as weapons?" The details were specific enough to be identifiable to anyone who knew their situation. Brittany had described Emma's apartment, her work schedule, even Tyler's recent struggles with bedtime routines. Other posts were worse. One detailed Tyler's obvious neglect at Emma's house. Another described Emma as clearly mentally unstable and suggested that Tyler would be better off with a real mother figure. Emma screenshot every post, her hands shaking with rage. This woman was publicly disparaging her parenting to strangers on the internet, sharing private details about Tyler's life, and painting Emma as an unfit mother. "Jess, she's documenting details about Tyler's routine, his behavior, things she could only know from spending extensive time with him. Emma, this proves she's been staying overnight regularly, despite the custody agreement. And she's sharing private information about Tyler online." Emma scrolled through more posts, finding Brittany's comments on other threads where she'd offered advice to stepmothers dealing with bitter exes and parental alienation. In one comment, she'd written, "Some women just can't handle being replaced. Eventually the courts will see who the better mother is." Emma forwarded everything to Catherine, along with a detailed summary of how the posted information could only have been obtained through extended, unsupervised access to Tyler. Catherine's response came at 6 a.m. Saturday morning. "This is gold. She's documented her own violations while publicly defaming you. File for emergency hearing Monday. We're ending this now." Marcus's text arrived Sunday morning while Emma was making pancakes with Tyler. "Can we just move forward? You're making this harder than it needs to be. Brittany loves Tyler. Why can't you see that?" Emma stared at the message while Tyler chattered about his plans for the day. Her son was happy, secure, unaware that his father's girlfriend had been posting about him on social media and undermining his relationship with his mother. A second text followed. "My lawyer says your lawyer is being aggressive. Can we work this out like adults? For Tyler's sake?" Emma felt a familiar flutter of doubt. Maybe she was being too harsh. Maybe she should try to work with Marcus instead of fighting him. Then Tyler looked up from his pancakes and asked, "Mom, what does real mom mean? Brittany keeps saying she's my real mom, but you're my real mom too, right?" The doubt disappeared. Emma didn't respond to Marcus's texts. Instead, she called Catherine. "He wants to negotiate," Emma said. "Of course he does. We just caught his girlfriend violating your privacy, defaming you publicly, and documenting her unauthorized access to Tyler. He knows we have him cornered. What do I do?" "Nothing. Let your lawyer handle it." "Emma, I'm going to send Marcus's attorney a letter today outlining our demands. Full compliance with the custody agreement, immediate cessation of Brittany's contact with Tyler, and a formal mediation to address the violations. And if he refuses? Then we go to court with everything we have. The recordings, the social media posts, the school counselor's concerns, the Reddit account. Emma, you're not making this harder than it needs to be. You're protecting your son from a situation that's already caused documented psychological distress." That afternoon, Emma's phone buzzed with missed calls from Marcus, Dorothy, and 3 unknown numbers. She ignored them all and spent the day at the park with Tyler, watching her son play and laugh without the shadow of adult conflict. For the first time in months, Tyler seemed completely, genuinely happy. The mediation session was held in a sterile conference room downtown, with a neutral mediator, both sets of attorneys, and enough tension to power the city grid. Emma sat next to Catherine, her documentation folders neatly organized on the table. Across from them, Marcus fidgeted while Brittany sat beside him like she belonged there, which was the first violation of mediation protocol. Unauthorized parties weren't supposed to attend. "I'm sorry," Catherine said immediately, "but Ms. Williams shouldn't be present for this discussion about custody arrangements." Marcus's attorney, a nervous-looking man named Robert, cleared his throat. "My client requested her presence for emotional support. This is a legal proceeding about parental rights, not a therapy session," Catherine replied smoothly. "She needs to leave." The mediator, Mrs. Foster, nodded. "I'm afraid that's correct. This session is limited to parents and legal counsel." Brittany's carefully composed expression cracked. "This affects me too. I'm going to be Tyler's stepmother." "Actually," Catherine said, opening her first folder, "my client has never agreed to any marriage or step-parenting arrangement. In fact, the relationship between your client and Ms. Williams has been conducted in direct violation of the existing custody agreement." For the next hour, Catherine systematically presented their evidence. The unauthorized introduction at the PTA meeting. The overnight stays. The social media posts. The Reddit account. The recorded conversations showing parental alienation. Marcus grew increasingly agitated with each piece of evidence. "This is insane," he finally exploded. "Emma's been spying on us, recording our private conversations, stalking Brittany online." "Actually," Catherine said calmly, "Emma has been documenting violations of your legally binding custody agreement. These aren't private conversations, they involve her son, to whom she has full parental rights. Emma's just jealous." Brittany shouted from outside the conference room, where she'd been banished but was apparently listening at the door. She can't handle that Marcus found someone better. The mediator looked appalled. Mrs. Foster had seen contentious divorces before, but this level of dysfunction was clearly beyond the pale. I'm going to recommend immediate emergency modification of the custody arrangement, Mrs. Foster said finally. Mr. Rodriguez, your failure to follow the agreed-upon protocol for introducing new partners, combined with the documented emotional distress to the child, constitutes a serious violation of court orders. Marcus stared at Emma across the table, his face red with rage and humiliation. You're going to destroy Tyler's relationship with me over your hurt feelings. No, Emma said quietly. I'm going to protect Tyler from adults who put their own desires above his emotional well-being. Chapter 16, The Therapist Speaks. Dr. Sarah Martinez had been Tyler's therapist for 6 weeks, recommended by the school counselor after Tyler's behavioral changes became more pronounced. Emma had been taking Tyler for sessions every Thursday, watching her son slowly open up about his confusion and anxiety. When Catherine requested Dr. Martinez testify about Tyler's emotional state for the emergency custody hearing, Emma felt both hope and dread. She wanted professional validation that the situation was harmful to Tyler, but she hated that her 6-year-old needed therapy because of adult failures. Tyler presents with classic symptoms of loyalty conflict, Dr. Martinez explained to the family court judge via video conference. He's been placed in the impossible position of navigating competing claims about family structure and parental authority. Emma sat in the courthouse gallery, listening to the therapist describe her son's internal struggle in clinical terms that somehow made the emotional damage sound even worse. The child has reported confusion about maternal figures, asking questions like which mommy should I listen to, and am I supposed to love Brittany more than mommy? These questions indicate significant psychological distress. Judge Harrison leaned forward. Dr. Martinez, in your professional opinion, what has caused this distress? The introduction of a new parental figure without appropriate preparation, combined with conflicting messages about family roles and loyalty. Tyler has been told by this new person that she's his real mom and that his biological mother is mean for not accepting the new arrangement. Emma closed her eyes, remembering Tyler's small voice asking if he needed to choose between his mommies. Furthermore, Dr. Martinez continued, Tyler has exhibited regressive behaviors, bedwetting, difficulty sleeping, increased separation anxiety from his biological mother. These are clear indicators that his emotional security has been compromised. Marcus's attorney tried to minimize the testimony, suggesting that all children struggle with divorce transitions. But Dr. Martinez was unshakable. Mr. Rodriguez, adjustment to divorced family structures is normal. What Tyler is experiencing goes beyond normal adjustment. He's being asked to accept a fundamental redefinition of his family without his mother's agreement or his own emotional readiness. When the video session ended, Emma felt validated but heartbroken. Her son needed therapy because the adults in his life couldn't follow basic boundaries. Judge Harrison made notes and scheduled the full custody hearing for the following week. The confrontation happened outside Lincoln Elementary at 3:15 p.m. on a Tuesday, witnessed by approximately 20 parents, 3 teachers, and the school's security camera system. Emma was walking toward her car with Tyler when Brittany appeared seemingly out of nowhere, her face flushed with anger and desperation. This has to stop. Brittany shouted, marching toward Emma across the parking lot. You're destroying everything. Marcus loves me, Tyler loves me, and you're just a bitter ex-wife who can't let go. Emma instinctively stepped in front of Tyler, who was clutching her hand and looking terrified. Other parents stopped their conversations, creating a circle of uncomfortable witnesses. Brittany, please lower your voice. Tyler's here. I don't care. You've been ruining our lives for months. Spying on us, recording us, turning everyone against me. Brittany's voice was escalating to a shriek. I'm going to be Tyler's stepmom whether you like it or not. Emma tried to back away, but Brittany followed, jabbing her finger inches from Emma's face. Tyler started crying. You're scaring my son, Emma said firmly. Please step back. He's going to be my son too. Brittany grabbed Emma's arm, her manicured nails digging into Emma's skin. And I'm going to be a better mother than you ever were. That's when Emma's maternal instincts overrode everything else. Take your hands off me. Now. Make me. Brittany shoved Emma backward, causing her to stumble. Mrs. Patterson, who had been monitoring pickup duty, immediately intervened. That's enough. I'm calling security. But the damage was done. The entire confrontation had been captured on the school's security system, and multiple parents had recorded portions on their phones. Emma's first call after the police report was to Catherine. Her second was to the domestic violence unit to file for an emergency restraining order. She physically assaulted you in front of witnesses and your child, Catherine said. This isn't about custody anymore. This is about safety. The temporary restraining order was granted within 24 hours, prohibiting Brittany from coming within 500 feet of Emma, Tyler, or Tyler's school. Marcus called that evening, his voice tight with panic. Emma, you can't do this. Brittany was just upset. She didn't mean to hurt you. She grabbed me and shoved me in front of our son and 20 other people, Marcus. She terrorized Tyler in his own school parking lot. She's devastated. She loves Tyler. She assaulted Tyler's mother. If she loved Tyler, she would have protected his sense of safety, not destroyed it. The call ended in silence. The emergency custody hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m. on a Monday morning in family court. Emma sat next to Catherine, watching Marcus and his attorney set up their materials across the aisle. Brittany was notably absent, the restraining order prohibited her from attending. Judge Harrison called the court to order and immediately addressed the elephant in the room. Before we proceed with custody modification arguments, I want to address the recent restraining order filed by Ms. Rodriguez against Ms. Williams. Mr. Rodriguez, are you aware that your girlfriend physically assaulted the mother of your child on school property? Marcus's attorney, Robert, stood nervously. Your Honor, my client wasn't present for that incident and that's not what I asked. Judge Harrison's voice was sharp. Mr. Rodriguez, did you know that Ms. Williams had a prior harassment charge filed against her in 2020? Emma felt Catherine stiffen beside her. This was news to them too. Your Honor, Robert stammered, I'm not sure how that's relevant to custody arrangements. It's relevant because your client has introduced a person with a documented history of harassment into his child's life without following court-ordered protocols. Judge Harrison opened a file. Ms. Williams was charged with harassment and stalking her ex-boyfriend. Marcus went pale. Emma could see him processing this information for the first time, realizing that Brittany had hidden her past from him just as she'd hidden her social media attacks on Emma. Catherine leaned forward. Your Honor, this information supports our argument that Mr. Rodriguez has shown poor judgment in exposing Tyler to potentially dangerous individuals without proper vetting or discussion with Tyler's mother. It certainly does, Judge Harrison agreed. Mr. Rodriguez, did you conduct any background checks or inquiries before introducing Ms. Williams to your son? Marcus shook his head mutely. Did you discuss Ms. Williams' role in Tyler's life with his mother, as required by your custody agreement? Another head shake. Did you inform Tyler's mother before allowing Ms. Williams to have overnight contact with Tyler? No, Your Honor. Judge Harrison made several notes. Mr. Rodriguez, your pattern of behavior suggests a concerning disregard for both your legal obligations and your son's well-being. Combined with Ms. Williams' documented history of harassment and her recent assault on Tyler's mother, this court has serious concerns about Tyler's safety in your custody. Emma watched Marcus realize that his attempts to force acceptance of his relationship had backfired spectacularly. 3 weeks later, Emma sat in the same courtroom for the formal custody modification hearing. The evidence folders on Catherine's table had grown substantially: police reports, school counselor statements, therapy records, and character references from Tyler's teachers and Emma's colleagues. Judge Harrison reviewed the case summary with obvious displeasure. Mr. Rodriguez, in the 6 months since your initial custody arrangement was established, you have violated the parenting plan multiple times, introduced your son to an individual with a history of harassment without proper protocol, allowed that individual to engage in parental alienation behaviors, and failed to protect your son's emotional well-being. Marcus's new attorney, he'd fired Robert after the previous hearing, tried to mount a defense. Your Honor, my client acknowledges that mistakes were made, but he's willing to comply with all future requirements. Mr. Rodriguez's willingness to comply now, after multiple violations and a physical assault, suggests that he only respects court orders when facing consequences, Judge Harrison interrupted. This court's primary concern is Tyler's safety and emotional stability. Catherine presented their final arguments methodically. Tyler's therapy records showed significant improvement in the 3 weeks since Brittany had been removed from his life via the restraining order. His sleep had improved. The bedwetting had stopped. His teacher reported that he seemed more like himself again. Your Honor, Catherine concluded, Tyler thrives in his mother's care and suffers documented psychological distress when exposed to the instability and conflict that characterizes his father's current living situation. Marcus took the stand in his own defense, but his testimony only made things worse. Under cross-examination, he admitted that he'd known Brittany was posting about Tyler online but hadn't asked her to stop. He admitted that he'd heard her telling Tyler that Emma was mean but had dismissed it as harmless. Most damaging, when Catherine asked if he would choose Tyler's well-being over his relationship with Brittany, Marcus hesitated. I love my son, he finally said, but I also have a right to move forward with my life. Judge Harrison's expression grew cold. Mr. Rodriguez, parental rights come with parental responsibilities. Your son's well-being isn't negotiable. The ruling was swift and decisive. Emma was granted sole physical custody, with Marcus receiving supervised visitation until he could demonstrate consistent compliance with court orders and completion of co-parenting counseling. As they left the courthouse, Catherine put a hand on Emma's shoulder. It's over. You won. Emma looked at the custody order in her hands, then at Tyler waiting with Jessica in the hallway. Her son was coloring in a book, completely absorbed, blissfully unaware that his world had just become safer and more stable. We won, Emma corrected quietly. A week after the custody hearing, Emma's phone rang with a call from Lisa Chen, her childhood friend who now worked as a reporter for the Seattle Times. Emma, I heard through mutual friends that you've been dealing with some custody drama. I'm working on a piece about post-divorce parenting challenges and wondered if you'd be interested in sharing your story. Emma hesitated. The legal battle was over, but the emotional scars were still fresh. I don't know, Lisa. It's been pretty brutal. I understand. But Emma, your situation highlights problems that a lot of divorced parents face: partners who don't follow custody agreements, new relationships that interfere with children's stability. The story could help other people. Emma thought about Tyler's therapy sessions, about the nights he'd cried asking if he had to choose between his mommies, about the school counselor's concern for his emotional well-being. Would it be anonymous? Completely. No names, no identifying details. Just a story about how custody violations can harm children and what legal recourse parents have. The article appeared 2 weeks later under the headline "When New Relationships Collide with Children's Needs, a Cautionary Tale." Lisa had masterfully told the story without revealing anyone's identity, focusing on the psychological impact on children and the importance of following legal procedures for introducing new partners. The article gained traction on social media, shared by divorce support groups and family law attorneys. Emma found herself reading comments from other parents who'd faced similar situations: ex-spouses who ignored custody agreements, new partners who overstepped boundaries, children caught in the middle of adult conflicts. Marcus called her the day after the article appeared. Was this really necessary, Emma? Making our business public? Our business became public when you brought your girlfriend to Tyler's PTA meeting, Emma replied. At least this story might help other kids avoid what Tyler went through. The conversation was civil. The first they'd managed in months. Maybe the legal consequences had finally taught Marcus that actions have repercussions. Or maybe he was just tired of fighting battles he couldn't win. The final hearing for the permanent custody arrangement took place 6 weeks later. Marcus had completed his court-ordered co-parenting class and anger management counseling. Brittany was no longer in the picture. The restraining order and the custody battle had apparently convinced her that Marcus came with too much baggage. Judge Harrison reviewed Marcus's compliance reports and Tyler's therapy progress before addressing both parents directly. Mr. Rodriguez, you've demonstrated improvement in following court orders and engaging in appropriate co-parenting behavior. However, your previous actions showed a concerning willingness to prioritize your personal relationships over your son's well-being. Marcus sat quietly, his posture subdued. The arrogant defiance from previous hearings had been replaced by what looked like genuine remorse. Ms. Rodriguez, you've consistently demonstrated appropriate judgment in protecting Tyler's interests. Your documentation and advocacy prevented a potentially harmful situation from escalating further. Emma felt a mixture of vindication and exhaustion. She'd never wanted to be adversaries with Marcus, but she'd learned that sometimes protecting your child requires fighting battles you never thought you'd have to face. Moving forward, Judge Harrison continued, Mr. Rodriguez will have supervised visitation for 6 months, followed by gradual reintroduction of overnight visits contingent on continued compliance with court orders. The judge's tone grew stern. Mr. Rodriguez, understand that this court will not tolerate future violations. Any introduction of romantic partners must be discussed with Tyler's mother and approved by the court. Any behavior that compromises Tyler's emotional well-being will result in immediate suspension of visitation rights. Marcus nodded solemnly. I understand, Your Honor. I hope you do. Because Tyler's well-being is not negotiable, and this court will not hesitate to protect him from adult choices that harm his development. As they left the courthouse, Marcus approached Emma hesitantly. Emma, I want you to know that I never meant for things to get so out of hand. Emma studied his face, seeing exhaustion and what might have been regret. Tyler's doing better now. His therapist says he's processing everything in a healthy way. Can I ask how he's doing with the new arrangement? He's relieved, Emma said honestly. He told his therapist that he's happy he doesn't have to worry about having 2 mommies anymore. Marcus flinched but nodded. I messed up. I know that now. It wasn't an apology, but it was acknowledgement. For now, that was enough. The ripple effects of the custody battle spread through Marcus's life like cracks in ice. Dorothy stopped calling Emma to arrange visits, apparently too embarrassed by her son's legal losses to maintain their fragile relationship. When she did interact with Tyler during Marcus's supervised visits, she was noticeably less critical of Emma. Brittany had vanished completely. Her Instagram account was deleted, the Reddit posts were removed, and according to Jessica's careful surveillance, she'd moved out of Marcus's apartment and blocked him on all social media. Apparently, dating a man in a contentious custody battle wasn't the upgrade she'd thought it would be. Marcus's job at the marketing firm where he'd worked for 8 years placed him on probation after his colleagues discovered the details of his legal troubles through the viral news article. Having your personal life exposed as an example of poor judgment and harassment wasn't great for professional relationships. Emma learned about these developments not through Marcus, but through Tyler's innocent updates during their nightly bedtime talks. Daddy seems sad, Tyler told her one evening as she tucked him in. He said Brittany went away and won't be coming back. How do you feel about that, sweetheart? Tyler considered this seriously. I'm not sad. She was confusing. And she made you cry. Emma's heart clenched. You don't need to worry about grown-up things, baby. Your job is just to be a kid. I know. But Mom? I like it better when it's just you and me and sometimes Daddy visits. It's less scary. That night, Emma called Dr. Martinez to schedule a check-in session. Tyler's emotional honesty was encouraging, but she wanted to make sure he was processing everything in a healthy way. The next day brought a surprise. Marcus called to ask if he could take Tyler to supervised visitation at the park instead of the sterile visitation center. The request went through Catherine and the court-appointed supervisor, but it was approved. When Emma picked Tyler up afterward, he was genuinely happy. "Daddy and I played catch." He didn't seem sad anymore. Maybe Marcus was finally learning to focus on being Tyler's father instead of trying to force Tyler to accept whatever chaos was happening in his personal life. Emma found the crayon-drawn card on her pillow when she came home from work on a Friday evening. Tyler was in the kitchen with Jessica, who was babysitting while Emma attended a late meeting. The construction paper was bright red, Tyler's favorite color, and the front featured a stick figure drawing of two people holding hands under a rainbow. Inside, in Tyler's careful first-grade handwriting, was a message that made Emma's chest tight with emotion. "Dear Mom, I love you. I like it when it's just you and me. You make me feel safe. Thank you for being my only mommy. Love, Tyler." Emma sank onto her bed, holding the card and crying for the first time in weeks. Not tears of frustration or anger, but tears of relief and overwhelming love for her resilient, thoughtful little boy. Jessica appeared in the doorway. "Hey, you okay?" Emma held up the card. "Tyler made this for me." Jessica read it over Emma's shoulder and made a soft sound of sympathy. "That kid has been through so much, but look how clearly he can express what he needs. He shouldn't have had to go through any of it." "No, he shouldn't have. But Emma, look what you did. You fought for him when he couldn't fight for himself. You protected him from a situation that was confusing and harmful. You're the reason he feels safe enough to write cards like this." Emma studied Tyler's drawing again, just two figures, no complicated family configurations, no competing loyalties. Simple, clear, peaceful. "I used to worry that I was being too controlling, too rigid about the custody agreement," Emma said. "You were being a good mother. There's a difference." That evening, Emma and Tyler made dinner together, grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, Tyler's favorite comfort meal. They ate in companionable silence, Tyler chattering about his day at school and his plans for the weekend. No mention of visitation schedules or complicated adult relationships. Just a 6-year-old boy enjoying time with his mom, secure in the knowledge that his world was stable and predictable again. The conference room at Catherine's office felt different this time. Less adversarial, more businesslike. Marcus sat across from Emma with his attorney, reviewing the final custody modification papers that would replace their temporary emergency orders. 6 months of supervised visitation and co-parenting counseling had changed Marcus. He was quieter, more thoughtful, and notably focused on Tyler's needs rather than his own desires. "The new agreement gives you every other weekend and one weeknight for dinner visits," Catherine explained to Marcus. "All contingent on continued compliance with the introduction protocol for new partners." Marcus nodded. "I understand. Any potential new partner would need to be discussed with Emma and approved by the court before meeting Tyler. And there's a clause about social media," Catherine continued. "Tyler's image and personal information cannot be shared online by anyone without both parents' written consent." "That makes sense." Emma studied Marcus's face, looking for signs of resentment or resistance. What she saw instead was exhaustion and what looked like genuine acceptance of the boundaries they were establishing. "Marcus," Emma said finally, "this isn't about punishing you. It's about protecting Tyler." "I know." Marcus met her eyes. "Emma, I want to apologize. Not just for the legal violations, but for putting Tyler through all of that confusion. He didn't deserve to be caught in the middle of my poor decisions." It was the first real apology he'd offered, and Emma could hear the sincerity in his voice. "Tyler loves you," Emma said. "He's excited about your dinner visits. But he needs stability more than anything else. He'll have it. I'm not interested in introducing anyone new to his life for a long time. I want to focus on being his dad, not trying to create some complicated family situation." Catherine pushed the final papers across the table. If you're both in agreement, we can get these signed and filed today. Emma and Marcus signed simultaneously, their pens scratching across the same document that would govern Tyler's childhood for years to come. When they left the office, Marcus walked Emma to her car. "Thank you," he said simply. "For what?" "For fighting for Tyler when I was too caught up in my own stuff to see what he really needed." Emma watched Marcus drive away, feeling lighter than she had in months. The legal battle was finally, officially over. 6 months later, Emma sat at her kitchen table on a Saturday morning, sipping coffee while Tyler slept in. The house was quiet, peaceful, filled with the kind of calm that comes from security rather than exhaustion. Her phone buzzed with a text from Catherine, "Custody compliance check completed. Everything looks perfect. Officially closing your file." "You did it, Emma." Emma smiled, setting the phone down and looking around her home. Tyler's artwork covered the refrigerator. His backpack was packed by the door for Monday school. His Spider-Man pajamas were in the laundry basket, waiting to be washed. Normal, everyday life, the kind Tyler deserved. The doorbell rang, and Emma opened it to find Marcus with Tyler's baseball glove and a small bouquet of flowers. "Tyler forgot his glove last night," Marcus said, handing it over. "And these are for you." "Just, thank you." "For everything." Emma accepted both gifts with surprise. "Thank you, Marcus. Tyler had a great time at dinner last night. He told me about his A on the spelling test. And his new friend at school. He seems really happy." "He is happy. We both are." Marcus nodded, looking like he wanted to say more but wasn't sure how. "Emma, I know I can't undo the damage I caused, but I want you to know that Tyler having you as his mom is the best thing in his life." After Marcus left, Emma made fresh pancakes and woke Tyler gently. They spent the morning at the park, Tyler chattering about his plans for the day while Emma pushed him on the swings. "Mom," Tyler said as they walked home, "remember when everything was confusing and I had to worry about grown-up things?" "I remember. I'm glad that's over. I like just being your kid." Emma squeezed his hand. "I like just being your mom." That evening, as Emma tucked Tyler into bed, he asked his usual question. "Will you tell me a story?" "What kind of story?" "A story about a mom who protected her little boy from scary things." Emma smiled, settling into the chair beside Tyler's bed. "Once upon a time, there was a mom who loved her little boy more than anything in the world. And when complicated grown-up things tried to make her little boy confused and scared, the mom did everything she could to keep him safe." Tyler fell asleep before the story ended, but Emma finished it anyway, whispering the final words to her sleeping son. "And they lived happily, safely, peacefully ever after." Outside Tyler's window, the world continued with all its complications and challenges. But inside their home, mother and son had found their way back to simple, uncomplicated love. Next time someone brought chaos to their peaceful life, Emma would be ready. But for tonight, peace was enough.